All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another trade recap today. Unfortunately, my replay tool is glitching out. I tried to get this video done before this, and for some reason, the replay tool just won't let me like go forward in candles. So I'm gonna have to do the recap like this. Now, for obviously reasons of like the volume profile, since price has played out this far, I can't really like show you guys much of the volume profiles because it's obviously registering all this price action now. So I'll kind of just explain the volume profiles with them turned off for the time being. But yeah, so let's go over it. My trading view charts are bugged. Holy. All right. So, holy, this is cluttered. All right. Let me remove some of these levels and keep what's clear. All right. So, pre-market, we'll go from the 15-minute. So we had an hourly gap, which you can see marked here by this blue box. And you can see obvious all-time highs, which, we're trading all-time high conditions. We're kind of just looking to create new highs. And now this, small consolidation here on the higher time frame is now technically, been broken. And we're looking, just for retraces and continuation to make new highs, which you can see ultimately happen today. So basically, pre-market on the 15-minute, what I saw, which is right here, around this 8:45, 9-ish range before all this price action, I see that we're inside of this 15-minute imbalance here. So let me do this. So we're inside of this 15-minute imbalance here, and I see this 15-minute wick. So I did take like a small jab pre-market off this 15-minute wick, stops at the low of this wick. Viewing it as a valid rejection wick. This came down, tapped equilibrium of this, fib right here. Strong rejection out of this 15-minute gap. And then a retest to potentially move higher for new all-time highs. I ended up closing this position for pretty much like break even because I realized like this is a pre-market entry. I didn't really want to be in the move too early, which you can see, I would ultimately been stopped out. So I actually exited this. It was actually like really not that. I think it was like $20 or something. I literally exited like pretty much around my entry. And literally didn't even take an entry off of like, a gap or anything. It was really just a discretion entry off of this wick. Now, coming into market open, what I wanted to see ultimately was longs. And then I, obviously gave the idea of this 1 hour gap getting filled. Now, we had this smaller 1 hour right here. But as you can see here with the fibs that I had marked out on that 15-minute, which actually are 5-minute fib levels, the fibs that I had marked out, as you could see, OTE, right, 618.705 aligns inside of the 1 hour gap. So I'm anticipating for this gap here to get filled. Pretty much I actually did take an entry before the gap fill. You can see here at this point off of the 9:30 open, we had filled the higher gap and then kind of edged OTE right here. Now ES at this point had already like tapped OTE. ES was trading weaker, so we'd already tapped OTE, and then we started to get like this displacement move higher here. So essentially, I kind of wanted to see price like close above this area here to take an entry. So my first trade, I took an entry like this, and I had my stops about here. And then I was actually targeting the all-time highs. So I was targeting all-time highs here, seeing if we could get, some good volume up. Ultimately was looking to go break even around these highs here, these kind of relative equal highs. And then, I may have either closed at these highs or looked to hold to all-time highs, depends how we would have reacted. But you can see this ultimately got stopped out here, which is pretty unfortunate. So I took an initial loss there. And then I kind of waited for the market to see if we wanted to dig deeper and retrace into the lower gap, which at this point, this gives opportunity for a second entry. So you can see here with that OTE range, right? We come down, we tap into 705 right here, and we tap into that 1 hour gap. You can see 705 and the CE of that 1 hour gap are pretty aligned. And then we also make, this kind of internal SMT with ES plotted by the indicator, right? So at this point here, I'm waiting for some kind of confirmation that this could be a valid entry. At this point, right, this is like a decent risk to reward entry instead of waiting for something up here. So I see that we make this kind of doji on the 1 minute. We make these wicks, rejection here, and then we have a clear 1 minute displacement, right? So I see that clear 1 minute displacement, and I simply just put my stop here at this swing low, right? And at this point here, just seeing the way that price was, kind of accumulating down here, obviously these are all low resistance draws and liquidity, and you can see that ultimately those all got ran out. But with the way price was moving, and also just for the sake of the to make back some drawdown on my evals, on my not my evals, my fundeds, I just took low hanging fruit. So basically around here we had kind of like these triple equal highs. I actually didn't peep that in the moment of the market, so I actually just targeted the high of day, which is a 942 candle, targeted like AM highs, which was, you know, ultimately a perfect TP. But yeah, on the fundeds, after taking payout, I didn't really have much buffer left. I had around like $1,100 in buffer. So realistically, you know, I'm just looking to take clear trades and, you know, a little bit more cautious exits just to build that buffer back. But realistically, I mean, this was kind of just a make sense area to TP. You're getting 80 points out of the market right here. This is 1.6R. You know, realistically, I feel like, you know, holding for, you know, 180 points is being a bit optimistic. You know, 132 points, especially with the way the markets have been moving, right? A lot of times we're going to end up retracing pretty heavy before we get like the continuation of the move, which you can see here, right? This trade ultimately would have gotten break even and then would have ran without me, right? So on this trade, the way I played it out here was essentially, right, I wanted to see this kind of, you know, 1 minute leg down here get flipped, right? Inversions here on these gaps and, you know, ultimately a CISD here on this leg down, right? And I played this early entry, obviously anticipating the inverse, because at this point now, if we're going to reverse, this is going to be the area that I want to see us do it from. OTE, right? This 1 hour gap fill, the, you know, only gap now in the 1 hour leg to hold us higher. And then you have all these engineered highs above us, right? Clear displacement, you know, and a protected stop at this point. So we come up, we end up inversing these gaps, boom. And then we make this, you know, weird candle wick right here, make this weird wick up. It was a spike candle. Then we come down again. Now, as you can see here, we're holding like this small 1 minute BPR. Not really something that I would like take an entry off of necessarily, but definitely an area that, you know, I might want to see hold or see price at least reject around, which you can see that we were rejecting around that. And then to break even, I simply just picked, you know, this wick here to go break even, right? This would be the most make sense area now, because realistically in this leg here, there's really no area for me to like pick a break even, right? So it's either, you know, break even on discretion just off of displacement, or break even at a newly created high, which would be this, right? So we create this new internal high. At this point here, I want to see us take that high and then continue. I don't want to see us retrace, right? We should ideally, you know, break this high and then continue to, you know, run for the low resistance draws. So one break even there, and then you can see we end up getting our delivery. So on the day, I ended up doing about 500 per account on Lucids. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, unfortunately, did end up losing the top steps just off of my own user error. But you know, we'll end up recuperating that. Or actually, I don't think I mentioned that. I think I just started off with the recap. But in the last video I tried to make before I realized replay wasn't working, I mentioned that I took some gold trades overnight. Unfortunately, just got caught in a consolidation range, took some pretty poor entries realistically, and then kind of oversized. I had taken a pretty decent long, and then I ended up fading myself out of it for a loss, and the long ended up playing out. And then after that, I just kind of took some very low quality entries and, you know, slowly kind of, you know, ran the balances down on those. So top steps are gone, unfortunately. We did secure a payout on Lucids, which I took yesterday, I believe. So Lucid secured a payout. So realistically, ROI between those top steps and these Lucids was secured. I made positive ROI on it, just not as much as I was wanting to. But that's completely fine. You know, we're just going to run it back. Basically, we'll be focusing on these Lucids, looking to get maybe, you know, 2 or 3 more payouts on them, or, you know, maybe they'll even push me to a live. I'm not sure. But their live platform is pretty cool. You can have up to 5 live accounts, so they wouldn't be it wouldn't be a firm I'd be opposed to going live with. But yeah, realistically, I'm just going to be focusing on the Lucid fundeds. I have 4 of them, and we're just going to be looking to kind of compound a few payouts off of these. And then ideally, I'm going to be looking to run up probably Tradeify and Alphas most likely. After the new top step changes, as you guys probably know, as of the 28th of April, changes are going to be made for the payout cap. So 50Ks are now going to be limited to a 2K payout cap. 100Ks are now going to be limited to a 3K cap, and then your 150Ks don't change. Prices are lowering, I think, by about $10 for the 50Ks and 100Ks, and then they're upping the price on the 150K. I'm not sure by how much, but to 200 and like something dollars. So top steps probably not going to be a top pick. I'm definitely going to be sticking with Lucids. I'm going to be running most likely Tradeifys, probably the select accounts, and then I'm going to probably look to run the Alpha 0 accounts more than likely. Probably run that stack, right? 3 firms, try and compound off of those. And then ultimately, the goal for later into this year is to look into running TPT accounts and trying to scale those and rinse them. And then also, there's another firm. Oh, and then also run some alpha advanced accounts. As you guys know, those accounts have 15K max payouts and maybe some My Fund and Future Pro accounts. So the goal would be to basically realistically run the advanced and pro accounts together, and then just grind out the balances, just grind, and then, maybe grind for like a month worth of price, and then just look to take, a payout every single month on them after compounding the balances. The alphas are 15K per that you can take. And then on My Fund and Future Pros, they have like no cap. So you can just kind of build balances and take payouts. I think it's a cap of like up to 100K or whatever, which is like per account. So that's super solid. But yeah, it's kind of the plan going forward. The top steps were 1 day off of the payout, unfortunately, but it is what it is. You can't really dwell on the past. We did come into AM today and, make a pretty decent session. So that's really what matters. And now these Lucids are, 1 out of 5 days towards their second payout. So yeah, we're just going to continue grinding. But as always, if you guys did find value within this video, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Today really was pretty straightforward. There was, not a lot to cover. I think, longs were kind of just the play for the most part. London lows down here looked all right, but this also kind of looks like, a potential protected low. And then you have this 1 hour gap that, creates that protected low essentially. So, unless we decided to, flip this 1 hour gap and then, maybe start drawing down into this new day opening gap, right? Midnight open, etc. Maybe. But other than that, I think it's just smart to be looking for longs. You have all-time high conditions. We kind of engineered a lot of highs to the downside here on this retrace down into the 1 hour, right? And then, ultimately ended up buying through all of that low resistance. Now, it didn't deliver that clean whatsoever. I can definitely say that. Definitely could have been a lot cleaner delivery. But, ultimately, structure-wise, the market played out, how it should have. But yeah, that kind of covers it for the recap. Should be a short recap today, just around 12 minutes. But yeah, nothing really to cover other than that. If you guys did enjoy the video, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Didn't really go over volume profiles in this recap. The volume profiles, it wasn't really much to see. In this trade, we did have like New York value area high resting around these highs, which gave a little more conviction for the longs. On this retrace down, we were holding the value area low from like the 6 p.m. open to, where current price was. And then, we were also kind of around that like point of control area from, around here. Point of control is sitting like somewhere around here in price. So ultimately, we came up, finally broke that point of control kind of on this move here and then ran for the draw. So for volume profile, that's kind of, the main things that I kind of saw. The other thing as well, there was a like, bigger low volume node inside this 1 hour. So like this 1 hour leg up, see here, this 1 hour leg up right here, it ended up making a low volume node. So like I said, I really can't turn on the profiles because they're, messed up with obviously further price action playing. But in current time, there was a low volume node here from this, basically fast move on the 1 hour and the 15-minute right in this area. And we had a low volume node around there. And then that's where, price ultimately came. We wicked. And then we saw that, speedy reaction. We saw that like very quick reaction up, right? We didn't come down and stall. We saw a very quick reaction to the upside. So for volume profile, that's kind of like, I guess how that aligned to today's trade. Pretty simple, pretty much, the same thing I've been breaking down in every video this week. But yeah, basically end of the week on a good note. Realistically, obviously would have been nicer to secure those top set payouts to end the week. But, realistically, we were able to secure the Lucid payouts and then end the week off with a green day on the Lucids as well. So we'll look to continue grinding them into next week. Ideally, maybe we can grab the other 4 green days next week, God willing, and then grab another payout to end the month of April. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. As always, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Later.